Yeah, I'm talking about when there's a kid that's diverse that is not nice, and you are faced with a decision as a parent to be you want to be inclusive. And
Hmm.
it's a challenge because you're not going to welcome, I don't want to go to the extreme and say bullying behavior, but a kid not being nice to your kid, it can be challenging to be inclusive.
Hmm.
Most
Yeah.
definitely.
Have you found anything, Simone, that works in those situations?
Meditation.
Taking some deep breaths.
Oh my God. You're having the conversation with your child and they're asking questions, but mom, they're not nice to me, and you're like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And it really is challenging. I go to the space of you don't have to be perfect to be inclusive. And so, you do your best. Around parenting, we do our best. We do our
That's it.
best to show up and
Hmm.
love on our
Hmm.
kids and teach them you know, good practices, but there's some challenging ones that can get into the mix around inclusion.
Yep. Yeah. Pivoting a bit back, Crystal, to advertising and just thinking about where you see it going as far as inclusion goes, and specifically like thinking about marketing to younger kids. Like it's not just on TV anymore. Like it's not just like TV commercials. Like my generation, it's like I just remember like watching Scooby-Doo and there were like all these toy advertisements, but like now Jane's on YouTube and Netflix and just all these spaces where kids are getting marketed to. What do you see as like maybe like trends, but also like things parents should be paying attention to?
In terms of trends, there are a lot of different devices where you can receive advertising. I agree with you. But I also am seeing a lot of junk being promoted, to be honest with you. Less educational toys and less like, I would say, social building toys as well. It's just a lot of like, I don't know, a lot of stuff out there, as it always has been, right? So in terms of the different trends, I would say definitely I've seen more inclusive advertising to children, or even in the Black Barbie documentary, for example. The Black Barbie, when it first came to the scene and was first being promoted, it was not heavily promoted in commercials. It was not heavily promoted even in stores. But you're seeing more of that, right? More diverse types of characters, books being promoted. It could be better, it could be more, but also children of different backgrounds too. So not just only in toys, but also I would say retail overall. You're seeing children from different like abilities being promoted and being included in the casting, which is incredible, because again, representation does matter. And for parents, I would say, definitely make sure that the types of books, clothing, toys that you're buying for your children, early to our earlier point, make sure that they do have a social responsibility alignment there to corporate responsibility, social responsibility, that they are inclusive and diverse, that you're not buying brands who don't support that, or buying brands who did once in 2020, but then cut that, right? So at the end of the day, the money is power. And when you are driving revenue for a particular brand because you're supporting it, make sure you're supporting it because it aligns with your overall ideas, your overall morals and ethics as well.
I think that's great. Things like or companies like Starbucks came up to me because whenever I go in there, I'm seeing signage around heritage conversations, Target, Procter
Yes.
and Gamble. A lot of those companies come up for me. I wonder, to educate parents, what resources do you or can you share that's readily available for parents to check out? Where do they go to look to learn more about the companies that are invested and not performative, to your point, that one time in 2020? Where can they go to receive information?
I would say check out your local library. I think that we are in an age where Some people don't go to the library as often because everyone has a computer, everyone has access to information. The library is such a great resource to go to with additional information that we might not know about because of, we're in our own world or because we're not well informed in different types of industries. So go to your local library. They have a lot of resources, including books, including different resources on nonprofit organizations to learn more about, that type of information. But I would definitely say library. I'm old school, so I love a library.
Me too. I love the library.
I
Mhm.
know. I always forget about it. It's like the summer's already passed. I was like, had this all like gung ho, like I'm gonna go to the library and do like the summer reading program with Jane. And now I'm like, okay, well, we're gonna read books before bed. Like it's just, but I think, when Simone and I first started this podcast so many years ago, it was kind of dreadful going to the library and looking for content with diverse perspectives. I mean, I really struggled with it, and thankfully it has gotten a lot better. And like you said, movies have gotten a lot better. I just think as parents, you just have to constantly have that filter of like, is this the kind of content that it's representing the world of which we live in? Like, it's not even like, do you have enough Black people in it? It's like, is this enough representation that actually
Correct.
looks like the world that we live in? And I feel like that would help us with all this weird divisiveness around DEI too. It's like, this is just a fact. This is how the world is. Like equipping kids for the future is probably good practice to not show them a different version of reality. But having said all that, Crystal, it's so helpful to have you on the show and to talk about a topic we haven't had a chance to dive into. Thank you for your time. Tell our listeners how they can follow your work, stay engaged with you.
Thank you for everything and this amazing platform. So you can find me on LinkedIn under Crystal Foote, also digitalculture.group for digital culture group and the work that we do. And I'm also a children's book author. So we have the Inclusivity Superheroes, a tale of diversity and unity. In the back of the book, it gives information to grown-ups, advice, you can see it. There we go. Advice on what they can do to continue this conversation about diversity and inclusivity with their children.
Oh, that's so cool. We love children's book authors.
We do. We do. Yes. So thank you for being a guest. I was going to say, because you brought it up, like what's one line of advice that we can close out? What's advice from the book? What's one line that you can share to close us out?
I would say to have empathy, right? To have empathy and to always think about how you would feel if you were the person going through any situation that someone else is going through. Have empathy. And I think that when we have empathy towards people, this world could be definitely 1,000% better place to live in. And we see that people who have helped with civil rights, help with, different organizations, and even this political climate as well. When you have empathy towards people, you can see positive change. And that's what I would say in terms of my advice.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. As Julie said, we are honored that you chose to spend time with us on the Inclusion School podcast. Thanks so much, Crystal, for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We hope you enjoyed this week's podcast. We are thrilled to have your support. If you like this episode, please share it with a friend, or better yet, share it on social media at Inclusion School with hashtags KidsDiversity or hashtag Inclusion School. Be sure to check out inclusionschool.com for more resources on how to connect with our guests, recommended books on diversity conversations with your children, and articles to learn more.